Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our country and our province, for our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Canadians and all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Honorable Provincial Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker and members of the Assembly, I'm pleased to introduce to you His Excellency Sudarto Purwanto, Ambassador of Indonesia. Mr. Purwanto was appointed Indonesian Ambassador to Canada in 1990 and is making his first official visit to our province. The Ambassador has a distinguished diplomatic career in service to his country, was a directorate of the GATT, Ambassador to Hungary, the United States, and most recently, the Ambassador served as the Indonesian Ambassador to the United Nations. Alberta and Indonesia have an interesting sharing of economic and social interests. Of course, energy and agriculture form the basis of our relationship. Today, Mr. Speaker, the Ambassador will be discussing with Alberta members of our government several areas of interest, including research, agriculture, and industries I noted, perhaps over a cup of Java, if I can be allowed that aside. Mr. Speaker, the Ambassador is accompanied by Mrs. Sobaki, the Indonesian Consul from Vancouver, Mrs. Berkel Awe, the Honorary Consul here in Alberta. I would ask that the Ambassador and his party rise in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure the members of the Assembly will send to the Ambassador a very warm Alberta welcome.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to table the annual report of the Department of Agriculture for the year 1990-91.
Thank you. Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
I'd like to table with the Assembly the Canada Forest Accord, which was recently signed by the forest ministers for federal, provincial, and territorial governments and other members of the forest community, Canadian forest community, such as the Canadian Pulp and Paper Association, the Alberta Forest Products Association, the Canadian Wildlife Federation, and the National Aboriginal Forestry Association, to name only a few. Mr. Speaker, this accord sets out the goals and visions of sustainable forestry and progressive and realistic. Mr. Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I'll also like to file with the Assembly the National Forest Strategy called Sustainable Forests, the Canadian commitment, which expresses the same visions and goals as the Canada Forest Accord and outlines strategic directions for all of the Canadian forest community.
Minister of Family and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table with the Assembly today the 1990-91 Children's Advocate Annual Report.
Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure this morning to file 4 copies of the 1991 annual report of Alberta Immigration and Settlement Advisory Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I should mention that this is on plain paper, written in plain language.
Seems plain enough to me.
Introduction of special guests.
Member for Red Deer North.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor for me to introduce to you 22 students from the Montfort School in Red Deer. They're here with their teacher, Monsieur Guitin Perron, and also parent, Mrs. Glenda. They're seated in the public gallery, and I ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Honorable members, I believe that I have one group from Fairview School in the constituency of Calgary-Egmont in the public gallery. The reason I have to put it that way is that I understand that there are over 200 students here this morning from the constituency of Calgary-Egmont, so bear with me. We will introduce one group now if they happen to be here. Would you please rise and be welcomed by the Assembly? In addition, I know that this is not a matter of welcome, this is a matter of congratulations. We have 31 members of this House who today celebrate their 6th anniversary of being first elected to this Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 14th, the provincial treasurer said that this government would seek the advice of Albertans on what services should be reduced or ended, Mr. Speaker. Yet this morning, Mr. Speaker, we learned that the Minister of Health will be telling healthcare administrators that they will probably have to slash some $240 million from the healthcare budget over the next 3 years, Mr. Speaker. Some consultation, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest most Albertans would tell them to slash their handouts to their business friends that cost us millions of dollars first, Mr. Speaker. But my question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Premier. Would the Premier confirm that the Minister of Health is planning to slash approximately $240 million from the hospital budgets in the next 3 years, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, what the Minister of Health is doing is conducting exactly the kind of consultation that the provincial treasurer was talking about in the budget presentation.
That's certainly the government's idea of consultation. Here we go, you're going to lose this money, Mr. Speaker. That's what they think about. But, Mr. Speaker, we all know that difficult decisions have to be made, Mr. Speaker, but the Minister of Health, correctly at the time, I thought, said that we're going to give you 2 years to plan your budget. 4% for this year, 2.5% for next year, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
And that was promised in January. Funding levels for the next 2 years. Now, Mr. Speaker, it looks like those promises are going to be broken. My question to the Treasurer, Mr. Speaker, is simply this. How can hospitals be expected to plan and budget properly when the Minister says 1 month and then comes up with a whole new plan a few months later, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth, and in fact, we're working on just a contrary plan. Speaker, the important note here is that 2 years ago in the budget, Mr. Speaker, we gave the hospitals advance warning that they would be able to count on minimum grants over a 2-year period. And that was put in place to allow the hospitals to improve the efficiency, to apply a performance measurement which ranked their output and the way in which they operated in this province, to ensure efficiency for the taxpayer's dollar. And now, Mr. Speaker, because all governments, and I noticed Saskatchewan brought down a budget last night, Mr. Speaker, all governments, Mr. Speaker, have to plan for the next 5 years, the 3 to 5 year period, Mr. Speaker, in which we have to look at the ways in which programs are delivered in this province, ensuring that efficiency and effectiveness is taking place with the taxpayers' dollars, ensuring that we can maintain the same high level of services to the people of Alberta, and maintaining clearly, Mr. Speaker, that we all have to be disciplined by less resources, and surely we do not want to get caught in the trap of having to increase taxes to unbelievable levels. In my mind, this kind of future thinking is just what Albertans are calling for, and we, Mr. Speaker, in consultation with the people of Alberta, are working on joint solutions to Alberta's problems.
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is the treasurer that's run up deficits of over $15 billion talking about efficiency, Mr. Speaker. He's not one to talk, Mr. Speaker. But my question about the contrary plan, Mr. Speaker, then. The minister here in the Assembly talks about a contrary plan. To the treasurer, then, what is that contrary plan? Is it, in fact, that there will be $240 million cut from the hospital budgets over the next 3 years?
Mr. Speaker, you see, it is this sort of knee-jerk reaction you expect from the socialists across the way, who have never had to put a business plan in place, who have never had to deal with the complex changes of a dynamic economy, where, in fact, Mr. Speaker, we have to look ahead. We have to anticipate the kinds of changes that may be impacting on the kinds of social services that are provided in a very large way by this government in health and education and social services. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, we would not use the unilateral form of administration that is so typical of the socialists, including the Liberal Party across the way, where you have a top-down direction. What we are doing, Mr. Speaker, is seeking advice from the group of clients, the people who are part of the client base and the constituency base to find joint solutions. Now, how better, Mr. Speaker, can you find reasonable solutions among Albertans than to have open discussions, to put the information on the table and seek their advice, the people who deliver the services, as to ways to more efficiently and properly deliver the services. That's what it's about in government these days, Mr. Speaker. We're in the 90s. The changes are taking place, and we have to adapt accordingly, not like those folks across the opposition way, Mr. Speaker.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Lose a seat the next election, he can get a job as a comedian after that. But I'd like to designate my second question to the member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Economic Development. The bench insurance fraud continues to plague Albertans. The auditor who reviewed the matter has discovered 400 bogus policies with over $2 million in paid premiums and over $1 million in profits to bench insurance. My question for the Minister of Economic Development is, will the Minister please explain how it is that the Alberta Opportunity Company loaned approximately $80,000 to bench just prior to the commencement of this fraud, and the repayment of that loan seems to have been partially as a result of the proceeds of a fraud?
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable members of this Legislative Assembly are aware, Alberta Opportunity Company is an independent arm of this government whereby they have a board of directors of their own. All those decisions are made without any direction whatsoever from this government. There is funding that is allocated towards Alberta Opportunity Company so that they can involve themselves in the further diversification of this province. When I had my estimates before the House some evenings past, we indicated that some 6,000 odd involvements that they have had in making sure that our economy is strong within this province. I should share with the honourable member too, as it relates to Alberta Opportunity Company's involvement with bench, they have taken the legal action to support and to recoup their involvements, recognizing that their first obligation is to the taxpayer of the province of Alberta.
Well, perhaps the Minister of Economic Development will enlighten us as to how much is outstanding on the loan made to bench by the Alberta Opportunity Company.
Mr. Speaker, as I just indicated to the honourable member, and had he been listening to the response, he would have heard that I indicated that the Alberta Opportunity Company is an arm's-length organization from the government of the province of Alberta. If the honourable member wishes me to inquire as to the amounts of money outstanding, I'm more than happy to do so. But for me to be aware of that, that is not the case, because the arm's-length organization, and I'm sure the honourable member, as they have consistently said in this Legislative Assembly, they don't want us to offer direction to those types of arm's-length organizations so that they can do so strictly on a business decision. But I'm more than happy to inquire. I'm more than happy to inquire for the honourable member and get that information to him.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the Minister of Economic Development acknowledges that he doesn't know what's going on. My question is to the Premier. I wonder, in the circumstances here, we already know that the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs doesn't know what's going on. Will the Premier now undertake to launch a public review of the regulatory failure in this insurance fraud and let Albertans know what's happening?
I guess the clap was for reading it correctly. Yeah. That's what happened there. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs has dealt with this matter in the House many times. The Minister of Economic Development and Trade has just offered to provide the information the honourable member wants. And surely, if he merely pursues his information from the ministers, they'll provide him with everything he possibly needs.
And Gary, on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year the Premier was an Albertan first. This year the Premier is a Canadian first. Last week the Premier wanted an end to enforced bilingualism. Today, the Premier accepts official bilingualism. Last year, the Premier insisted on the veto. This year, the Premier says no veto. And at this moment, Mr. Speaker, well, who knows where the Premier stands? Will the Premier explain the difference between official bilingualism and enforced bilingualism by defining each for this Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader of the Liberal Party shouldn't be led around by the nose by the media, and then he'd know what was happening.
And so would the media. Well, I guess when you don't know where you stand, you make it fuzzier even still. Mr. Speaker, I'd like, just so that Albertans are clear, Mr. Premier, just so that Albertans are clear, I'd like the Premier to tell this Assembly and Albertans what laws and what provisions should be scrapped nationally so that we can get rid of what he calls enforced bilingualism.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member, as all members, has received a copy of the speech in which I outline my thoughts on these matters, and nothing has changed. But what I would say again to him is that the Official Languages Act, which tends to be the way the federal government puts in place the policy on bilingualism, I think needs a total review, and probably, Mr. Speaker, we can get along without it. Now, Mr. Speaker, that isn't just my point of view. That isn't just my point of view, because while you endorse bilingualism, most Canadians feel very strongly that the application of the policy is bringing what otherwise is a pretty good policy into disrepute. Now, I believe that, and I believe that because Albertans have told me that. Now, that is not being against the policy of bilingualism, but a $26 million survey of Canadians, the Spicer report, Mr. Speaker, also comments on this. Now, Mr. Spicer was the former language commissioner. So in some ways, Mr. Speaker, gives them even a greater insight. And if the members will just take a moment, because they seem concerned about this, here is his findings. A sometimes mechanical, an overzealous, unreasonably costly approach to the policy of bilingualism has led to decisions that have brought it into disrepute. Excessive designation of bilingual jobs, narrow legalistic approach are sapping a principle which would otherwise be welcomed by Canadians as a part of our basic identity. That's the position.
Well, we're getting this drawn out. We're getting this drawn out slowly now. Premier is showing his colors for the first time, and I'm glad to see exactly where he stands. My last question to the Premier is this. Premier appeared on a talkback program recently and indicated that he was prepared to look at the issue of equality insofar as Triple E is concerned. Now, we've seen the changes, the terrific changes in the Premier's position on many issues. I wonder why he's changing his position now on Triple E.
Sorry, Honourable Premier, it's a different line of question entirely. The chair recognizes Rocky Mountain House. Rocky Mountain House, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of years ago, our Premier established a much appreciated committee of...
I'm sorry, Honourable Premier, I didn't hear the question because of the uproar in a certain quarter of the House. Rocky Mountain House, would you be good enough to ask, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of years ago, our Premier established a much appreciated committee comprised of municipal and school leaders from around the province. We know that there are many very tough issues facing both the municipalities and school boards around the province, And hopefully this committee, chaired by the Premier, is able to enhance the partnership and cooperation that we are so interested in. Now, I understand that yesterday there was another of these meetings. Could the Premier please tell us whether, in fact, he was satisfied with the progress that was made yesterday?
Mr. Speaker, this is a Premier's Provincial Municipal Council, and it is designed to bring together the government with leaders in municipal governments, and so that we can work together in a cooperative way in order to deal with problems which face the citizens of Alberta, which both levels of government deal with. I should mention, Mr. Speaker, that in the meeting yesterday, a 3-hour meeting and a very good meeting, we had representatives of the Rural and Improvement Districts Association, the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, the Alberta School Boards Association, and the Alberta Association of Municipal Districts and Counties. Now, to show the importance that the government places on this matter, along with myself, who was chairing the meeting, we had the Minister of Health, we had the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, we had the Provincial Treasurer, we had the Minister of Environment, and we had the Associate Minister of Agriculture and the Minister responsible for Rural Development. We dealt with a wide variety of subjects, Mr. Speaker, that I think lay the groundwork here for us working together, municipal governments, provincial governments, to deliver the services that Albertans expect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that one of the topics that would have been discussed yesterday is the fiscal situation, both as it relates to the province and the municipalities. Could the Premier update on exactly what transpired in that area?
It's a shame, Mr. Speaker, on a very important matter between municipal governments and provincial governments, that school students here would be able to watch the situation where the Liberal Party and their leader makes fun of such a discussion.
Shame.
Mr. Speaker, the area of provincial municipal financing is obviously a very important one, because with scarce resources these days, we still are attempting to provide services in the most efficient way. Now, we have a special follow-up meeting set up for June the 17th to deal more specifically with the new thinking on municipal provincial funding. But I would say the key thing that came from this meeting is a realization that we are dealing with scarce resources. You can't tax people, and they feel that they have provided sufficient resources. You can't increase taxes. Our government is cutting taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are trying to do is identify exactly what responsibilities each level of government has, and then see that the resources necessary to carry out those responsibilities are made available. That will be the key, and I found that the municipal leaders are very, very much aligned with the provincial government in this regard, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
West Yellowhead, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, a major timber quota in the Piers area was retendered by the receivers of a bankrupt sawmill in the town of Piers. It is my understanding, Mr. Speaker, that 4 bids were submitted, 3 of which were high enough to pay off the secured creditors, but only 1 which guarantees manufactured jobs in the Piers area. Given that the minister has stated that an accepted bid must include an employment program for the people of the Piers area, can the minister explain whether such an employment plan includes not only woodland jobs, but also manufacturing jobs for the people of the Piers area?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is correct. There was a quota sale held yesterday, and I was informed last night that the successful bidder at this point is Weyerhaeuser. I have not seen what the commitments that were made by that company or others at this point. I expect I'll have a chance to look at them next week and report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact is that there are at least 19 timber quotas with local manufacturing conditions attached, and precedence was set by the removal of Condition 12, and it threatens not only Piers but also many other communities in Alberta. Given that the people of Piers, Mr. Speaker, were leading information when some of them signed the original petition supporting the removal of a local manufacturing condition, will the Minister and his department initiate a meeting with the people of Piers area to determine whether they want the manufacturing jobs to stay in the community or whether they want those jobs exported to another area?
Mr. Speaker, the member from Yellowhead can't be on all sides of the issue here. It was made very clear in the community. In fact, the community wanted the condition on, and then there was a petition saying they wanted the condition off, and then there was another petition saying they wanted it on. And Mr. Speaker, I have said clearly that the government doesn't make the decision on who receives the quota. That is made by the receiver. The receiver makes that decision. And the receiver, in making that decision, has been told clearly that the jobs for the Piers area were an important part of whether the quota would actually be assigned or not. And Mr. Speaker, next week I will receive that information, and when I do, I'll report to the House.
Is this a private conversation, Edmonton Kingsway, or just carried away by the moment? Westlock Sturgeon, please. Thank you.
And first, thank you for the kind notes you put on my desk for the 6th anniversary. It's been 6 interesting years. Yes, this is to the Premier. Yesterday, the Cabinet Minister for Lotteries admitted in this House that his office was acting as a repository or clearinghouse for job applications for a firm that he had let a printing contract out to. Very simply, Mr. Premier, does the Premier condone this practice?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not familiar with the incident the honourable member is referring to, so I'll look at it.
Mr. Speaker, I hope he takes the opportunity to read up on it. It's in Hansard, and if you don't read, it's even on the TV. I will go a step further, Mr. Premier. Does the Premier accept job applications in his office for Lottery Fund headquarter jobs in Stettler?
Mr. Speaker, I was going to think of a liberal joke, but
and you did.
It occurred to me that they're all elected in the legislature.
Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I too would like to acknowledge on behalf of 86 your kind memory of our anniversary. It has been a tough 6 years. And Mr. Speaker, in Calgary recently we've heard about the number of layoffs with regards to Petro-Canada, and just to correct the member for Westlock Sturgeon, it's not 12,000 jobs but 1,200. But still a significant amount of people who are concerned about where they would go for employment, and they're feeling doom and gloom at this time. And I would like to ask the Minister of Career Development and Employment if he could update us on these unemployment figures as recently as last month.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to advise the Assembly that last month Alberta's seasonal adjusted unemployment rate decreased by some 0.6 percentage points from 9.6 to 9%. Mr. Speaker, it's interesting to note that these rates now remain the second lowest in Canada, behind those in Saskatchewan, which I would anticipate, Mr. Speaker, there will be dramatic changes as well in that province as a result of the recent budget announcements. Actual employment in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, as well is up by some 2,100 in April, and this is very encouraging to note that more Albertans were able to find in full-time employment. I should also point out while I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, because it relates to the question asked by the honourable member, of particular interest in Calgary. that Calgary's unemployment rate also dropped by the same amount as Edmonton, by some 0.2%, from 10.8 to 10.6%. These are very encouraging trends, Mr. Speaker, and as a result of some of the layoffs that have occurred in the energy sector, which we regret in Calgary, it's also pleased to note that many of those have been handled through attrition and some very attractive and generous severance packages. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't mean that we're satisfied and accept these. We're trying to do whatever we can in the way of encouragement, and we'll assist those in all areas that we can.
Mr. Speaker, Treasurer announced recently the budget relating to our economy and how these people are able to get jobs and how we are creating jobs for these people who are now unemployed. Now, Albertans do feel that there is doom and gloom and are feeling a loss of confidence in our economy and in Alberta. I wonder if the Treasurer could outline to the Assembly how these strategies would help these unemployment figures and help these people back to the jobs with the recent budget announcement.
Mr. Speaker, that is a very important policy question, and I think I would like to make two general points on this issue. First of all, there's no doubt that Alberta has experienced one of the lowest unemployment rates for at least the last 2 years. And that doesn't happen by accident, Mr. Speaker, given the fact that the rest of Canada suffered a recession, and Alberta, to some extent, has suffered a slowdown as a result of the lack of confidence that existed across Canada. So how do you instill confidence, Mr. Speaker? There are several ways you can do that. The first thing you must do, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that those people in Alberta believe that their future is secure and have access to education in particular, and secondly, find that their income is protected, that it's not grabbed back by the government through high taxation. And in Alberta, we have maintained that particular objective here. We do not have a sales tax in this province, and we have the lowest personal income tax of any province in Canada. As a result, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the fundamental economic equation, the consumption or the dollars in people's hands are being spent for their purposes. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, an important point, investment. But one way that you can generate jobs and generate economic growth and secure your future, as Alberta has done, is to attract investment in this province, Mr. Speaker. Investment is flowing at high levels to our province. People from all over the world know that the environment is clear here. You are welcome, you're not taxed, and you have a skilled workforce that you can use. That's how...
Thank you. Thank you. Edmonton Jasper Place, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Honourable the Premier. On January the 16th, the Government of Alberta announced that it accepted the recommendations of Alberta Environment's Ministerial Tire Advisory Committee on the Tire Project, which report the government refuses to this day to make public. It also announced on that date that it had accepted proposals from Environmental Rubber Products of Edmonton to recycle 1.3 million tires annually, and the Allen Marketing Group of Okotoks to recycle 1.2 million tires. The following month in February, the Premier announced he was reviewing that decision. March and April went by, and finally, May the 6th, the Premier made another announcement, the day after the member for Three Hills quit, that he was having another review, this time into incineration and pyrolysis. Will the Premier explain whether he's actually doing any reviewing, or is he just trying to give some false hope to the people of Trochu for a by-election?
Yeah. No, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know why the honourable member would take that kind of a angle on something like this. The disposal of tires is an important matter in our province. We have gone through a process of evaluating how it might, this problem might be dealt with. We interviewed through a review process a lot of people and made a decision on two of them. As a result of my review, it appeared that we hadn't put enough emphasis on this was working with the Minister of Environment, enough emphasis on the matter of tire disposal by either pyrolysis or incineration, and that those who advocated that process should be talked to again to see whether one of them might be adequate to help in tire disposal. That's what's happening, Mr. Speaker, and it's just something that we're doing, hopefully to benefit the people of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, that is a serious allegation against the members of the advisory committee whose report he refuses to make public. But I'd like to ask a very specific question. There are contracts now awarded, according to the January 16th statement, for the full supply of 2.5 million tires, 1.3 in Edmonton, 1.2 in Okotoks. The Premier's statement on Wednesday emphasized, it's a direct quote, the results of the review will not affect the selection of the two proposals from the initial evaluation process. Now, how can he have it both ways? Where is he going to get these tires from? From Palm Springs? Where? Go ahead now.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it was quite implicit in the call for proposals that there was no guarantee of tires to anyone. Yes, the proponents said that they needed 1.3 tires and 1.2 million tires. There was no guarantee, and there never has been a guarantee at any time of a tire stock. Mr. Speaker, relative to the honourable member's allegation that there was something sinister about this, I referred to the Calgary Herald Friday, May 1st, 1982, and what the Herald did, they repeated their story. They repeated their story a week later. And I quote, Conservative MLA Connie Osterman said Thursday, this is last week, the Premier wants an outside expert to reevaluate some of the technical processes rejected by Cabinet earlier this year before it approved 2 rubber recyclers as official recipients of the province's mountain of scrap tires. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Osterman, who resigned almost 5 or 6 days later, was clearly and totally aware of the situation, and the honourable member knows it, and what he's trying to do is hoodwink the House.
Right. The chair is there are no hoods in this house, whatever your word was. Honourable Minister, I wonder if you'd be good enough to withdraw the use of the phrase hoodwink, please.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The $300 million money grab from the Alberta Municipal Financing Corporation and the subsequent transfer of $200 million back to the municipalities totally ignored the school board participation as shareholders to the tune of $75 million. To the provincial treasurer, how does the provincial treasurer intend to compensate the school boards for those dollars that they lost in this budget maneuver?
Mr. Speaker, to understand this, you have to understand, Mr. Speaker, that the province of Alberta, through its extensive programs to further education, is a high priority. In particular, on the capital side of education, does the following. First of all, we have a very extensive capital works program which builds schools across this province, and we have maintained that over the last decade so that the investment in education on the infrastructure side is very, very complete and is obviously adapting to the needs of the future. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, in recognition of the building of schools, the province, and here is the key point, Mr. Speaker, the province covers 100% of the venture cost of approved school construction cost. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the debt of the schools for the 100% of the approved cost is covered by the province itself.
Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question is to the Minister responsible for education. To the Minister, what has the Minister of Education done to convince his colleagues to correct this injustice on behalf of the school boards he represents?
Hear, hear. Well, Mr. Speaker, let's make it perfectly clear. This is the Minister of Education of students, not the Minister of School Boards. But, Mr. Speaker, what we have done is that the provincial treasurer, in his budget address, acknowledged that we will continue with the $700 million 5-year plan to help school boards build new schools, and upgrade and modernize existing schools. Mr. Speaker, that on a per capita and on a per student basis is the largest school investment capital program in this country.
Redwater Andrew. There's no...
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the Minister of Environment. And given the drought, the dry conditions in the northeast area of Alberta, and Redwater Andrew is no exception. I know that the county of Thorhild and the village of Thorhild have had severe water shortages, and I know that the village of Thorhild has approached the Department of Environment for assistance. And my question is, would the Minister of Environment please advise what is being done to address this problem?
Well, like the rest of the province, there is a water shortage, basically throughout the northeast part of the province, and certainly throughout southern Alberta and north central Alberta. And with respect to Thorhild, we're laying about 12 miles of temporary pipe from the Redwater River, and it's going to be pumped into the village of Thorhild, and we're going to fill the reservoir, and after the reservoir is filled, we'll probably remove that pipe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is obviously this water shortage has also affected the landowners in the area as well as the two municipalities. Mr. Speaker, the question to the Minister is, what is the longer-term solution to this, and also how can the farmers benefit from this pumping program?
Solution is rain and moisture, I guess, and God. And maybe John McInnes, who knows, you know? Right, and maybe Nick Taylor. But the longer-term solution, of course, is rain, but what we will do is we'll leave that pipe there. We'll leave that pipe there. The hierarchy of water use, of course, is people first, you know, to get the water to the people, and then we will, if there is enough water and we are not in danger of depleting the Redwater River, then we'll leave that pipe there and start to fill the dugouts.
Avonmore.
Speaker, my questions are to the Minister responsible for Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, a recent report by the Advisory Council on Supports for Independence indicate that immigrant women are unable to access the services and the support they need. For example, social workers use voicemail answering machines to take calls from clients, but women with limited English skills cannot use them. The lack of direct contact with workers, along with a lack of translators, leads to a painful misunderstanding and unwarranted delays or denial of services. Will the Minister now commit to ensuring that immigrant women are not denied services and benefits, or are not forced to stay in abusive relationships because of the barriers to communication as reported?
Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to do all we can to break down those barriers, and obviously there are some very specific and very unique circumstances that require specific and unique solutions, and we constantly look for those solutions, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the report further states that some workers through threat of denial of benefits, force immigrant women to go against their cultural imperatives by, for example, forcing them to work with men or changing their dress. These women risk being ostracized by their cultural support groups, and they risk being abused in their own homes. Will the minister now commit that his department's workers will be directed and trained to be sensitive to and supportive of the cultural realities faced by immigrant women?
Again, Mr. Speaker, as the department and the workers themselves do all they can to make sure that they're culturally sensitive. And there are adjustments that need to be made, both within the Department of Family and Social Services, but also within the new immigrants that come to our country as well.
Tony Plain, followed by Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Alberta education is well on its way into forcing integration of students regardless of need onto the school boards. But, Mr. Speaker, these boards have insufficient support from the government to properly serve students with a broad range of individual needs, including those from the deaf culture. My question to the Minister of Education is simply this. Will the minister set up a screening committee dominated by members of the deaf culture and hopefully include the person who holds the Deaf Studies Chair at the University of Alberta to ensure that only deaf children who are able and willing to adapt are in mainstream schools? Currently, the method of placement does not go to the benefit of deaf children.
Mr. Speaker, all school boards have a responsibility to meet the needs of all students. Deaf students, students with physical and emotional and mental disabilities, as well as all the other students in the school system. The provincial government provides funding in the order of well in excess of $100 million in this coming year for the special education of children, over and above the basic foundation grant, which is over and above language grants, vocational grants, and a series of other grants. One method by which school boards may choose to educate their deaf children is through the School for the Deaf. And we operate that school in Edmonton. It's recognized as one of the finest ones in the country, and we will continue to do so. But school boards will be able to have access to the School for the Deaf by by paying through tuition agreement for access for their students to the School for the Deaf.
As can be expected, Mr. Speaker, the minister is not willing to accept sound advice on the placement. I'm glad to hear that he has made a commitment to keep the School for the Deaf open, and I would hope that he reiterates that to the Assembly. And also, I'd like him to make the commitment that the school will be encouraged to increase its enrollment in order to provide a viable alternative for deaf students, at least in the Edmonton area.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows full well from his experience as a professional teacher that the strides that Alberta schools have made in the delivery of special education services to children and their families over the last 10 years is really miraculous. And I have to say to school boards and teachers and principals and all throughout the system that I have to applaud the tremendous strides that we have taken. And I can commit, Mr. Speaker, that while there is a demand, and a serious demand for special education services for the deaf through the School for the Deaf, that school will be there. But let's recognize that as that expertise grows in each community, including Edmonton, and the ability of school boards to meet those needs of those kids and their families in their own home communities, then I encourage school boards to be able to do that, to develop those programs more so that those kids can stay at home and live in their own community where many of them want to do so. But while there is the demand, Mr. Speaker, those will be provided.
Calgary McKnight.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in announcing Immigration Week last Friday, the government professed its commitment to allow immigrants an equal opportunity to participate fully in our society. Accessible language programs for new adult Albertans are a necessary component in this strategy. An interdepartmental review committee report prepared in November of 1990 identified a serious backlog in adult ESL as a result of funding shortfalls and changing immigration patterns. My question is to the Minister of Advanced Education. When will the minister deal with this long-standing need?
Mr. Speaker, we're well aware of the very great interest in the additional requirements for spaces in the program of English as a second language. As the honourable member is aware, the Department of Education, the Ministry of Career Development and Employment, and myself, as well as the Minister of Family and Social Services, have been dealing with this whole question of how do you offer sufficient services to immigrants coming in when English as a second language is a primary requirement. I think, Mr. Speaker, if one looks at the record, a record number of immigrants are now being trained. There is much more to do, and that's an ongoing concern to the government.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for that question, and I would like to ask him how his government is fitting into the new federal government new immigrant language training policy. What is our plan to fit into that federal initiative?
Mr. Speaker, that question I think would be properly addressed to the Honourable Minister of CD&E. I would just point out that the Government of Canada is, I think, being quite fair with not only its initiatives and also its funding. The question now remains, I think, as to how one deals with this unreasonable increase in number of immigrants, specifically to the province of Alberta, which is disproportionate to other provinces.
Mr.
Very briefly.
We're in a position of just negotiating with the federal government as to the amount of dollars that we'd be able to flow through to the province of Alberta. Those discussions have not been completed, but it's a very valuable question, and I recognize and appreciate the representation made. We hope to be able to be successful, to have more dollars jointly to assist in those programs.
Before we deal with a variety of points of order, might we revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. First, the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, followed by the member for Calgary Forest Line.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce a group recognized as the organizing committee for the roast that was held on April the 10th of this year, in which my name was bandied about for 4 or 5 hours. The funds raised from that event, Mr. Speaker, totaled $51,218.15. Yesterday, I and the committee members had the opportunity of presenting the check to the Edmonton Cardiac and Fitness Center in Edmonton. And today, seated in the Speaker's Gallery, are the movers and shakers that were responsible for the roast, for the success of the event, along with all those who kindly purchased tickets, as well as the people who were doing the roast. And I would ask them to stand, and when they're all standing, if we would give them a warm welcome from this assembly. The chairman, Kathy Wyatt, Jim Acton. I might point out Jim is accused of being in the picture that was in the paper yesterday, and he was accused of being a roaster. He was an organizer, and Dr. Talibi has a mustache. Don Clark, Terry Kavanagh, Lloyd Osler, Ernie Walter, and in the members gallery, my executive assistant, Brian Halous. I want you to give them a warm welcome and a thank you.
Calgary Forest Lawn.
It's a great deal of pleasure that I introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 17 bright and energetic grade 5 students from Holy Trinity School in Calgary. I know they had a great time last night staying at the Fantasyland Hotel. I hope they're finding their experience here today equally enjoyable. They're accompanied by their teacher, Mrs. Lindy Arndt, parents, Mrs. Sharon Kynick and Mr. Brian Scheiber. I'd ask that they rise and receive a warm welcome from the members of the Assembly.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Speaker, it's my delight, sir, to introduce to you a group of some 79 from the Mills Haven Elementary School, which are here too to tour the Legislative Assembly. I understand that they're both in the members in the public gallery. They're joined by Mrs. Cameron, Mr. Jessen, Mr. Mays, and parents, Mrs. Ruth Glombeck, Mrs. Margaret Laundrie, Mrs. Janice Ritchie, and Mrs. Linda Dizer. I regret that I did not have an opportunity to have a photograph with them earlier because of the number of students that were here, sir, as you referred to earlier. But let me share with them that we will have a photograph to commemorate their visit going out to them, and I would ask, too, that they would rise and receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly and we hope that their visit was very enjoyable.
And part two from Calgary Egmont. In the course of the morning, we have had 190 students from Fairview Junior High School. They represent not only the constituency of Calgary Egmont, but I know other constituencies in the southern part of Calgary. Some of those students are still here with us, and I'd like to acknowledge the presence of other teachers and helpers, Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Wilberg, Mr. and Mrs. Kerber, Miss Lowe, Mrs. Goat, Miss A. Shannon and Miss K. Shannon, Mr. Finkbeiner, Ms. Collins, Mrs. Rusk, Ms. Conrad, Mr. Boynvan. I thank them all for coming from one of the best constituencies in the province of the 83. Ask them to rise and receive the welcome of the House. We have this interesting situation where there are 83 best constituencies in the province. Till after the redesignation or the report of the Electoral Boundaries Commission. First, we have a number of points of order. The first one, yesterday, the member for Edmonton Kingsway raised the matter as to whether or not the documents referred to during question period yesterday, the documents referred to by the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services were indeed public. I had a telephone conversation with that minister this morning, and he assured me that all those documents are indeed part of the public record. Now, with respect to today, first one that I recognize is Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, citation Beauchesne 495, subsection 1 and 2. And referring to the earlier point that you ruled on, I just want to make reference to the minister's remarks, specifically referring to the 1990 annual report. And if we look at Beauchesne 495, subsection 1 or 2, it states very clearly a minister is not at liberty to read or quote from a dispatch or other state paper not before the House without being prepared to lay it on the table. And subsection 2, it has been admitted that a document has been cited ought to be laid upon the table of the House. That particular document has not been laid or tabled in this particular House, and I would request that you direct the minister responsible to table that document in this House.
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member is referring to the document to which you earlier referred, and then I in turn would refer him to Beauchesne 495 sub 3, a public document referred to but not cited or quoted need not be tabled.
Well, there's two difficulties here. Number one, the chair had already ruled on the point of order which was raised yesterday. The point of order presently being raised by the member for Edmonton Whitemud is not germane to today's discussion because it was not referred to in today's course of events during question period. The third portion of 495 as quoted by Government House Leader is indeed accurate, but this point of order is not a point of order because it's not raised at the earliest possible opportunity, but the conversation is indeed germane to the whole matter. Additional points of order. I know that there is at least one, Edmonton Highlands, and perhaps...
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
My point of order pertains to Standing Order 58 and Beauchesne's citation 953. Standing Order 58 is with respect to Committee of Supply. Mr. Speaker, I was advised by Government House Leader 2 days ago, perhaps 3 days ago, that today's estimates would be confined to the tourism component of the Department of Tourism, Parks and Recreation. Since then, I've dealt with the Government House Leader Assistant on this, that is a non-MLA, and I also talked to the Minister about this yesterday, and I'm very concerned. First of all, what they want to do, in my opinion, would establish a very serious precedent which could have the effect of limiting the number of departments that actually come before Committee of Supply. As you know, we only have 25 days for consideration of the estimates, and that's how many departments there are. So if you take one section of a department and say we're only going to debate that section, that means that probably down the road we're not going to get another department to look at. Now, I would like to make the case, first of all, that an MLA under Beauchesne 953 still has the right to discuss the entire department. I'll just read the relevant section to the members. The whole management of a department may be discussed in a general way when the committee is considering the first item of the estimates of that department, which reads as follows, Vote 1, Administration. And I'm sure our critic for Tourism, Parks and Recreation is prepared to do that. However, I think we need your ruling in this regard, Mr. Speaker. Citation after citation indicates that it is the department that is given to the Committee of Supply and not a segment of it. Now, while the member for West Yellowhead, our spokesperson for this department, has the ability to discuss the entire department because of that citation, without question, the minister is under no obligation to do that, and worse yet, has stated that he's only prepared to talk about the tourism component. I find this a very serious problem and a dangerous precedent. In your ruling, I would ask for two things. Number one, clarification of the instructions to the Committee of Supply, and number two, if that in that clarification it's decided that you cannot force the minister to bring the entire department to the Committee of Supply, then will you attempt to extract a commitment from the government, I don't care if it's Government House Leader or Premier or whoever, that this is going to be a one-time only event, that it won't happen again, and maybe put in the reasons for this one-time event. Thank you.
When are you going? Government House Leader?
There are 25 days under the standing orders that are allotted for Committee of Supply. There are 25 or less departments. There's certainly no intention of avoiding any department from coming before that committee. That will not be the case. And indeed, under the standing orders, 58-4, Leader of the Opposition have it within his power to call any department, any votes before that committee by giving the appropriate notice. And I think that the rules that are set forth in the standing orders allow sufficient flexibility for the concerns of the honourable member to be met.
Very briefly on this point, West Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, indeed the importance of the whole department is necessary on this day, because there's many other departments that perhaps we might want to call back, and we would be very gracious if the government would allow the total budget of the Minister of Parks, Recreation and Tourism to be debated, because the total budget for the whole department is $102,491,114, and the Department of Tourism, under the estimates on page 311, indicate that tourism is a small portion of that, $839,170. A very, very small portion of this particular department, Mr. Speaker. And I hope your ruling would indicate that the total department could be discussed today. I'm prepared. Is the minister?
Does not question, period, honourable member. The issue is indeed an interesting one. To have the matter dropped on the chair without much more prior notice and the fact there was going to be an item dealing with Committee of Supply is a bit difficult for the chair to immediately respond to, and I know all honorable members can appreciate that concern. I think in light of the issue that the chair will indeed undertake to meet with the chairman of the Committee of Supply, but also with the government House leader to deal with the concern, but perhaps it can be dealt with in a way other than by a ruling by the chair at this time. The chair will also go a step further and point out that when the House almost immediately resolves itself into Committee of Supply, then I suppose a discussion could take place there as to the extent of the estimates on this day as well. Orders of the day.